Okay, hi everybody, and welcome to the Dreamers of the World. I sort of facetiously chose this title because my point of view is why be a dreamer when you could actually create your dreams? I have created some of mine, all of mine, many of mine through using the tools of Access, and it's really been, I've been doing it for about 8 years, and I have had more adventures and journeys than I ever could have imagined at the beginning. And I have had very, very challenging times where I look at things about myself that I don't want to look at. And but I've also had these amazing places where I have used my need and tug capacity to actually create what I desire to create in my life and in the world. And that's really what I am interested in doing in my life's desire, and the things that I see possible for people is to really get people to look at what they're actually capable of, what might be in the way of them creating it, and what it would be like if you actually used your need and tug capacities to your advantage. So, I would like to open up the floor for any of you to ask me questions. Any questions that you have are great. Nothing is off the table. Feel free to interrupt me. And I would like to also have a conversation about what need and tug is and how you can start using it in your life. So, need and tug is basically where you have desired something and you've been able to have it show up in your life. Okay? So, um, one of my examples of need and tug was when I've been using this since I was a kid, and I was actually well aware that I was using it, which is cool and different. And I'm sure that many of you have had similar experiences. But I was on the school bus, and there were two things that I really, really, really desired to have in my life. And I think I was about 12. I really, really wanted, and tells you how young I am. I really wanted a new iPod when I was 12. iPods, I think, had just came out. And I also wanted a pair of black high top Converse All Star shoes. And I and that's not something, I wasn't the kind of kid who just like went to my parents and was like, I want this, buy this for me. I had the point of view that if I wanted something, I had to create it for myself. And so I remember sitting on the bus, and I had this desire, and I was like, what, like, I had got the energy of the future of having those two things, of in the future sitting on on my school bus with my new shoes and my iPod. And I I got the energy of that, and there was no doubt in my world that it would show up, or that that was something that I was able to create. I just had the point of view that I would create that. And so, and then maybe, I don't know how much after, I remember sitting on my, Alan, can you mute whoever that is? Um, I remember sitting on my school bus, and I was like, wow, I didn't even think about it. Like, I know I had made that request of the universe months before, and then months later, I was sitting on the school bus, and I was on my iPod with my new black high top Converse shoes. And I was so excited. I was like, whoa, it really works. I created it. And I believed in my ability to create. And there have been times where things have been really tough for me, and I have given up on my ability to create. And I have done need and tug. I have tugged in uh, hardship and frustration and dread of the future and pain. Um, but when I have realized that, I've been able to use the tools and change it. And um, but it was really interesting using the need and tug at that age, and then coming to Access and realizing what I was actually doing, because it's actually not the law of attraction. This is a different energy. It's the desire to have something and actually the willingness to bring it into your world. So it's really about taking yourself from being a dreamer of the world and instead being somebody who is willing to use need and tug to actualize their dreams. And the reason that I'm so excited about the need and tug today in particular is because I've just been listening to the Need and Tug Telecall by Gary Douglas, and I'd like to read you guys an excerpt from the telecall. So he says, okay, so, and he also wrote a book called The Place. Here, I actually have it right here on my shelf. The Place. And it's a book about, he doesn't say it's about him, but it really is about him as a young man. And he talks about how he needs money, so he goes out and gets gold using the need and tug. So this is a great book to read for an indication of need and tug. Is this in Portuguese? No. Fabiana and Luana are really working on this call and promoting this call, and one of our jokes is that my husband always says, Luana always says, uh-huh, and if she doesn't like something, she goes, no, 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 no. She's a very decisive person, and we really like that about her, and just think it's the funniest thing when she does her uh-huh or her no, 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 no. So everywhere that you guys have given up your willingness to actually utilize need and tug, will you destroy and uncreate it all times a godzillion? Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine, POC and POD, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Excuse me. And Gary in the telecall talks about how he was willing to use his need and tug to create frustration. And he said that's the need that I created, with the need to be frustrated. What was, he had trouble getting a taxi home from the airport, and because he lived far away. So he says we use our need and tug against us, and we use it to create crap rather than creating possibility. So then I looked at, what do I have in my life that I really don't like, that I'm using need and tug to create? Okay, so what do you have in your life that you really don't like that you're using need and tug to create? Basically, it's just the need, and it's not neediness, it's a need, like a desire. Like, this is something I need. This is something I require. And then the ability to energetically tug it into your life. Okay? Does that make sense to you guys? Give me a yes if it does, and give me a no if it doesn't. Yes. Yes. Uh-huh. Says Luana. Uh-huh. Cool. And the Portuguese are saying sim, so that's a good sign. Hi, Portuguese people. I love you guys. Brazilian representation. Cool. Okay. So every time you are using need and tug to create crap, here's the process that you want to run. What invention am I using to create the devastation, the disasters, and the catastrophes I am choosing? And everything that is times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine, POD and POC, shorts, boys, and beyonds. What invention are you using to create the devastation, the disasters, and the catastrophes you are choosing? And everything that is times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine, POD, POC, shorts, boys, and beyond. Okay? So, and then he says the homework is that you have to look at your life and look at where you have used need and tug to your advantage in the past. Okay, so where have you actually used this and gone out and done this and actually created what you wanted to create? So you need to write down 5 places where you have used need and tug to create what you would like to create. Okay? And then here's another thing. He says, I doubt that there isn't anyone out there that hasn't had the experience of, oh, I need to have sex with that person, or I need to have that person in my life. And the person starts to become attracted to you because you have the need and tug of attracting them into your life. We will do that with sex. We will do that with relationship. We will do that with friends, but we won't do it with money. We won't do it with gold. We won't do it with the great things in our lives. It's not really a different energy. It's the same energy, but it is the energy you have to learn to use to actually attract what you'd like to have. Okay? And he says this is the true law of attraction that they didn't mention in the law of attraction. So you've got to look at what you would actually like to have. And need and tug is very, very easy. It's just the desire. It's the willingness to engage the elementals of the universe, to engage the quantum entanglements of the universe, to actually bring you what you desire. And one of the things that has really stopped me from using need and tug is the idea that what I truly desire probably isn't a good idea. Like, I grew up in a wonderful world. I had a wonderful family, and I lived in a small town in Canada and had a wonderful upbringing, but there weren't a lot of tastes around me or things around me that were actually similar to what I desire as a being. So I actually had spent a lot of time thinking that what I desired must somehow be wrong because nobody around me wanted it. It didn't even exist anywhere to have the kind of things or live the kind of life or have the kind of adventures that I really wanted to go on as a person. And so I really started to have the point of view that I couldn't need and tug everything that I desired, or I would need and tug some things, but I wouldn't need and tug the whole picture or everything that I desired, because I had the basic point of view that there must be something wrong with what I desire, that there's some way that some other person wants it, or a combination of ways that other different people want it, different people's desires combined, that would probably be a better idea for me to need and tug or for me to create in my life than me actually creating what I truly desire. And that is probably the greatest disservice I have ever done myself. I've really, really hurt the ease of what I can create by having that point of view. And I'm strong and I overcame it and I have created so much of what I desire. But there are still so many things that I haven't created because I'm still buying that what I desire must not be totally correct, or that if I created everything I desired, then it would be too easy and my life would be over and I would be done. And I've actually created a lot of money problems, even in recent years, based on that point of view. And my husband, Anthony, it was very funny. He had a panic attack recently. He does Access. He's a facilitator of Access. A lot of you know him. But he was having a panic attack. And he phoned up Gary Douglas. He said, Gary, I'm having a panic attack. I feel like I'm going to die. And Gary said, well, have you created everything that you wanted to create in this lifetime? And Gary's like, have you got the girl? Do you have the marriage? Do you have the family? Do you have the home? Do you have the career? Do you have money? And Anthony's like, yeah. And Anthony, really struggled financially. He struggled with women. He struggled with a lot of things. And now he's at a point in his life where he's not struggling anymore. His life is actually working out with ease. And so he actually was setting himself up to die. And I know it sounds a little bit extreme, but it's like when we create everything that we desire, the reason that we don't is because we decide that once we create everything we desire, then it's time for us to die. So everything that is, can we please destroy it and create it all times a godzillion? Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine pod, pocs, shorts, boys, and beyond. I mean, at 25 years old, I had created so much of what I desired to create on the planet because I had used Knead and Tug so dynamically, and I have used these tools and believed in my own strength and used the tools of access to my advantage and really, really fought for myself and created. And then I decided, well, I probably should destroy it all now, because where am I supposed to go from here? Rather than how does it get better than this, or how can something greater show up, I went, okay, well, this is what I decided for this lifetime, so now I'm going to destroy it. Okay, so everything that is, can we destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine pod, pocs, shorts, with neons. So you can be on either end of that. You can be on the end of like you haven't achieved or you haven't created much of what you desired because what's the point? Once you do, you'll just have to die. Or somebody's loud. You have the point of view that you will have to die once you've created it, or you'll be on the other end of that and you'll have created a lot of it and have this place where you'll have to destroy it. Or Anthony actually wasn't willing to destroy his. He just started having panic attacks and getting ready to die. We're so funny, aren't we? We're really, really odd creatures. You know, we're definitely illogical, and sometimes our logic is a great thing. More like insane, though, and like not the good insane. We're sort of the ugly insane most of the time. But I'm so grateful to Access because it really does create this place where you can have more if you want to. Going beyond stratifications, to stratify. This is an amazing conversation that Gary and Dane have been talking about recently as well, is like we stratify. There's layers. We will have something and then we'll try to fit it into the right layer. To stratify is to like put something into layers. Like we talk in science about the strata of the rock formation. And so it will go into different layers of the rock formation. You'll stratify. Or if you come to Access and you see this amazing thing called Access, if you're truly doing it, you can't stratify it, but we'll come up with our own definitions of where it fits into our current stratifications, and we'll try to classify and stratify it and put it where we think it fits. Okay? So not a very good idea. Not a very nice thing to do to ourselves. Okay, cool. So does anybody have any questions about what I'm talking about?
I do.
Hi, Chris.
How are you?
Good. How are you? Nice to see you.
Good. Nice seeing you too. Where I see this is a lot in my life. I'll make money and then I'll lose everything. I'll make money and then I'll lose everything. So how do I stop this hamster wheel?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that, I'm going to have to scratch my eye. One of the things that I recommend is there's a book called Profit First. And it's by this guy called Mike something. And Mike Michalowicz. I know his last name, I just don't know how to pronounce it. It's called Profit First. And it's this fascinating, it's not an Access book, but it's this fascinating idea or system where you actually create your business so that you get to profit, and it creates the 10% account that Gary recommends, but it takes it a step further where you actually, because he talks about in the beginning of the book where he was wealthy and started creating all these businesses and started doing really well, and he had sold a company and he got his first check for $388,000. And there were going to be more checks coming. So with that check, he went to the car dealership and he got himself his dream car that he had had as a dream when he was a kid. And then he bought his wife a Land Rover. And he didn't say, what's the best Land Rover? He said, what's the most expensive Land Rover? And then he bought another car. And then he bought 12 different startups. And he just thought that, everybody in his life had told him that he had the magic touch. And so he had these 12 startups. And so he started paying really big salaries to people. And at a certain point, a whole bunch of the startups did not work. And he actually lost everything. And he got used to paying people really big salaries and just assuming that cash flow would always be there. And I think that's definitely something I've done. It's like our tool. But it's awesome to put like systems in place that allow you to have sustainable wealth. And that's something that Gary talks about a lot, is sustainable wealth. So this guy, oh man. So this guy, Mike, who wrote Profit First, said that after he lost everything, he had $10,000 to his name. It was Valentine's Day. And that was a big holiday with his family and his kids. They would all sit around the table and say why they loved each other and cared about each other. And so he talked to his accountant during the day on Valentine's Day. It's tax season. It's Valentine's Day, and his accountant said, you owe $28,000 in taxes this year, which is a reasonable amount. And he had $10,000 to his name, and he got off the phone and he put his head down on his desk and he started bawling. And then he went home, and he said normally he would bring home balloons and flowers on Valentine's Day because it was such a big deal to their family. But he brought nothing home, and he tried to keep it inside. And with his little girls at the dining room table at dinner, he just broke down crying. And he said, I've lost everything, and I don't know how to pay this tax bill. I don't know how to pay our mortgage next month. I don't know how to pay anything. And his little girl goes to her bedroom and brings back her piggy bank. And she's like, Daddy, we're going to get through this together. And he's like, because, his little girl is trying to clean up this mess that he made through his own choices, to not actually make profit a priority. And one of my favorite calls that Gary has ever done, Chris, was called the Profit Call. And it was a call out of a 5-series call that he did called The Phenomenons of Business, maybe in 2015. 2015. He did a call series called The Phenomenons of Profit, and call 5, or The Phenomenons of Business, and call 5 is called The Profit Call. And he goes through all of the different judgments and points of view that we have about profit and why we won't actually allow ourselves to have sustainable profit. And so you can get that series. It's like $600. If that's something that you want to do, it's very worth it. But you can also just take a loose leaf and you can write down, what is my judgment of profit, and clear everything that comes up. And what is my judgment of me with regards to profit? Like, as humanoids, we tend to have the point of view that if we have profit, we're swindling people, or we're hurting people, or we're going against people, or we're grifters, or we're greedy, or we're doing something, rather than this Profit First book is such an eye-opener for me, because it's like you pull out the profit from every sale before you even do anything else. You actually pay yourself first. But it's even different than the 10%. And it's not necessarily a system that everybody has to use, but it's something that that you have to read it, because it will give you this idea of what it is to change the way that you, because we all do it as humanoids. It's not wrong. It's nothing to be ashamed of. And I'm grateful for your courage to ask the question. We all do it. We profit and then we lose it, and we profit and we spend it, or we lose it, or whatever. And it's not sustainable, and it's exhausting, and it creates just constant dread of the future, constant checking our bank account every day and being like, how am I going to pay this thing? How am I going to do this thing? Where's this going to come from? So I highly recommend reading that book, and then looking at, what is your judgment of profit? And those two things hopefully should start to change it. And then I want to ask every single day, that easy to, we have to ask every day for money to come. I had a lady in San Francisco, and she was having terrible money problems. And I was like, well, how often do you ask money, like, do you speak with money and ask it to come into your life? She's like, I've never spoken with money and asked it to come into my life. And I'm like, well, you got to start. You got to talk to it. You got to let it know what you would like it to do. So one of the ways you can do that is go, okay, so what do I have to be or do different to create money for today and for the future? And just ask it every morning when you wake up. Because we do a lot of things to stop it from coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. I'm glad that you asked. It gives me a chance to talk about my exciting new book that I'm loving.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really cool. Awesome. Cool. So, and then, you want to set yourself up. Gary talks about putting away 10% for you, putting away 10% for the business. And, he says you always want to have, aside from the 10% for you and the 10% from the business, 6 months to live off of. And that's like horrific to most of us. Like, how would we ever come up with the next 6 months? Like, we can barely make it by. But if we start to ask the question, okay, so what choices do I have to make today to make that a future reality? Then we have that available. And this cool book gives you like line by line how to do it. It's really cool. It's basically the in and outs of what Gary's actually saying and how to actually implement it. And take the things from it that work for you and leave the rest behind. But you got to look and see what's going to work for you with regards to money. So, but it's so, we love to spend money as humanoids. It's like, what's the point of just letting it sit there when we could go do something with it? It's so exciting. But that's great, and we can do that, but we have to be willing to need and tug enough to have never enough money and always too much to spend. That clearing that Gary does, what energy, and Dane, they do this awesome clearing. What energy, space, and consciousness and choice can you and your body be to have never enough money, but always too much to spend for all eternity with total ease? And everything that is times a godzillion, can we all destroy and uncreate it times a godzillion? Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine, pock and pod, shorts, boys, and beyonds. And, so asking that, and then, we have to be willing to actually pull that in. And most of us aren't. And that's just the cold, hard reality, is like most people are not actually willing to have that, to profit. They're not willing to have a great life. A great life is not a real thing here on planet Earth. Only a life of pain and suffering is. And I've seen people who have the image of great lives, and they're like these vacuous, strange, creepy, hollow beings who are like robots underneath. I've met people like that. quite a bit. And that's like, so we go, okay, well, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be a weird, perfect, creepy robot who has the perfect life, because people usually put on a facade to create that image. Or, you know, we think that if we're being us, we have to be like others and struggle and not have a profit. And so it's, you have to be willing to choose a choice that's beyond this reality in order to make that happen. And you can also ask, you know, the great question is, what beyond this choice, what beyond this reality choices are available today? You know, because you have to choose beyond this reality to have your reality. You have to include this reality, but you have to choose beyond it. And, you know, just asking those simple questions every day, it just changes so much. You just ask the questions, you know, have your cup of coffee. I have mine written down on my bathroom mirror so that when I'm brushing my teeth, I'm asking the questions that I want to ask, you know, and I change them when it's time to change them. You know, once you ask a question for long enough, you become that question. Um, and, and then I change them. And you, where you have coffee or where you brush your teeth and I make it really easy for myself and just have them there. And I ask questions all day long, not just at that time, but those are kind of my main morning questions. And it really creates a lot just to ask them. It's just like waking up in the morning and having a business meeting with the universe. All right, universe, I'm here. I'm brushing my teeth. This is what I desire. This is what I'd like to have. Can you help me with this? You know, what beyond this reality choices are available? What would it be like if I had never enough money, universe, but always too much to spend? What would it be like if my life showed up greater than I can currently imagine? You know, what if my life could get greater and greater and greater and I could accomplish everything I came here to accomplish and then set out to create more? See how I just perceived 100 people's world go, because we don't want to have that. You know, we don't want that much adventure. We just want what we have bargained for. And that's a good thing about Access. You can have what you've bargained for. But eventually it'll stop working because you can only do Access for so long within this reality and it work. When people do that and then they have to go beyond this reality, they usually leave Access because it doesn't really work to go beyond this reality. It's more real to stay in this reality. So not right or wrong. It's just the way it is. It's just I've seen it for a long time. And you know, I used to believe that everybody would change like I wanted to change. And you know, probably want to change more than other people around you want to change. And are you willing to have that? And are you willing to be that difference? And are you willing to be that brilliance and that ease and that greatness that nobody else is really on the market for? It's just you. Even friends, you know. I even don't even tell my husband everything that I'm doing with Access because it's like, and he's an Access facilitator and he's as open as they come. But it's like, even once you put your awareness into words, it becomes less than what it was. Even if you have somebody who can quote unquote receive it, it doesn't mean that you need to share it. So it's a different way of looking at things. And sorry if this conversation got a little too intense, but it's like, you know, what do you desire to create? And you are going to have to go to beyond this reality in order to create it. So cool. Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Does anybody else have any questions? Do we have any Portuguese questions? No Portuguese questions.
Hi.
Cool. Oh, we
Got a
do.
question.
Hi, who is this?
Hi, this is Pax.
Hi, Pax.
Julia, you've been talking about this need and tuck thing in great detail. Can you actually speak into what that actually is?
Yeah. So it's basically when you have a desire for something and you pull it into your life. And I can't even give you a quote unquote how to do it. You just sort of go, okay, I'd like to have this, and then it shows up in your life. So, do you have an example? Like, and you don't have to tell me, but have you ever done that in your life where you've desired something and then it showed up?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, you want to look and you want to go, okay, where in my life have I desired for something to show up and then it's shown up?
Well, I
Um,
remember doing that with a job, that I wanted to have a particular job very badly, and then I got the job.
okay, there you go. That's it. That's need and tug. It's
Okay.
having a desire. And I can't give you, I wish I could give you the how to do need and tug, but there is no how because it really is a beyond this reality tool. So it doesn't work to give a how, but it's that desire, it's that need to have that in your life. And as you be that desire and let the universe know that's what you desire, it starts being pulled into your life. You, the being, start tugging it into your life. Does that make a
Okay.
little bit more sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Cool. You're welcome. Yeah, it's not something like, step 1, need something. Step 2, talk to the universe. Step 3, tug it in. It doesn't work like that. It's more this way of being in the world where you desire something and you bring it into your life.
Hi, Julia. I remember when I was 17, I saw this fellow get off the bus, a schoolboy, and I was gobsmacked, my jaw dropped, and my first thought, I was a virgin, said, I've got to have him. And I didn't know he was at a different school, but over a period of 3 months, found out connections, had a party, and then it took another 6 months before we had a date. And then we ended up getting married and having a child. Not the greatest husband, but that happened.
But you needed it and you tugged it in and there it was.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. Yeah, I did that. We do this with sex and relationships all the time. It's just a place where like animalistically we're willing to have need and tug. We just as like, hey, I want to have sex with that guy, and you don't stop yourself. And where we do stop ourselves is in the areas of money and gold and jewelry and investment properties and places like things like that. Rather than the sex and the relationship tends to happen a lot easier. There are people who do not have ease with need and tug in that area, but that's usually because they don't actually want a relationship in the first place. So they don't need and tug in something they don't truly desire. That's awesome, Cheryl. Thank you for giving me the example. And when I was in college, there was this tall blonde boy, and I had totally a crush on him, and it was like there were like 5,000 people in the school. Not big of a college, but there were like 5 people. And somehow I had only glanced at him once. A friend of a friend, knew him, and then all of a sudden we started dating because I was like, oh yeah, I'd like to have that. And then I went, okay, that's not what I'd really like to have. And so I let him go. And then it's like, I tugged in somebody else, but you want to look at like, what are some of the things, and you can even write them down. Don't dwell on too much. Um, but if you're rug, you am I cutting out, guys? Yeah, I'll shut off my video for a second. But when you're really willing to knead and tug, you just have this place where you desire something, you get the energy of it, get into your life. Okay? Can you guys hear me? Yeah, cool. Awesome. So, are there any other questions? That was a really fast 45-minute conversation. That felt really fast. Well, I'm very grateful for you guys. Let me tell you a little bit about some of the upcoming classes that I have so that you guys know what's going on. I'm coming to, well, if you're in India, I'm going to India next month for a 2.5-day class on money called What Would Embarrass You into Having Money. And then at the end of the summer, I'm actually having a couple telecalls too. I have one coming up called I'm Not Like Normal People, and it's a 4-part series. It is going to be into Portuguese. It's a 4-part series about being the are and really getting that you are not like normal people. We desperately seek to be average rather than being not normal. And then I have a 2-part series coming up, which is going to be kind of a quick series, a book talk and a facilitation 2-call series on Money Isn't the Problem You Are. And then I'm coming to Miami for foundation, and then I'm coming to Brazil for foundation. Yay! I'm coming to Sao Paulo. So that's what the girls are really excited about because they're hosting and promoting those classes and all my amazing hosts and translators and team. And I'm very grateful for everybody who's helping support me and helping support the consciousness and the facilitation and just supporting consciousness on the planet for all facilitators. It's just awesome. So I will leave you guys with that if there are no more questions. And how does it get better than this? What else is possible? And what would it be like if you were willing to have never enough money, but always too much to spend? It's possible if you're willing to have it. Okay? All right. Thank you guys so much, and I'm super grateful, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.